Welcome into episode 531 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue, and live from Tampa, Florida, one Scott McLaughlin. Now, the Boston Bruins got off to a 5-1 lead against the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stadium Series game, and the final score was an absolute blowout. Oh, no, hold on a second. No, Tampa won the game, right? Tampa came back and won somehow? What happened, Scott?
Somehow, yeah.
There.
A second half of the game that the Bruins would like to forget.
What happened with the Bruins there?
End up losing 6-5 in a shootout. So, if you had said going in that that's what the game is going to be like, and the Bruins would get a point, you'd be like, well, that's pretty good. You're down your top two centers. You're facing the only team that's been better than you since December 31st. Hey, it sounds like a great game. And I guess ultimately from the NHL's perspective, it was. I mean, you had everything, right? Like you had goal 11 seconds in, you had the Bruins scoring 5 straight, big comeback, a goalie fight, which, by the way, I saw someone tweet this. So there's now been 2 goalie fights in the last 2 weeks because there was the one in the Panthers game. Prior to that, there had not been one in 6 years. And
which is crazy. That's crazy. I could have sworn I remember in the Battle of Alberta, was that 6 years ago? That
I guess
it must have been. Kachuk was playing. I mean, yeah, Kachuk was in that game playing for Calgary, so it just doesn't feel like that long ago. But there was a goalie fight in that game, so that must have been the most recent one. Then I guess since this week.
Yeah, and I saw Emily Benjamin tweeted she's been at both of the 2 recent ones, so. I don't know. I guess just keep sending Emily around the country, and maybe we'll get more goalie fights.
Well, I mean, the Panthers are playing the Bruins tomorrow, so finish off
Wednesday. Wednesday's that game, but yeah, and so the game had everything, but for the Bruins, and this can just go right into my opening shift, I guess. Also had a lot of frustration. I thought. There are post-game locker rooms that you go into and talk to guys, and you can tell, they have an issue with a call here or there or whatever, and they might vent a little. This was like a feeling of the Bruins like legitimately being baffled with like how the second half of that game was called. The Lightning got 7 straight power plays to close out the game from the midway point of the second period through the end of overtime, including 2 in overtime. The second one of which was legit. The first one we're going to get into because it was probably the most controversial play, but yeah, I would say like most of the Bruins penalties were penalties, and they owned up to that. They said they played undisciplined. They needed to do a better job staying out of the box. But the problem is like there were obvious penalties committed by the Lightning that just weren't called. Bruins are killing a 5-on-3. Charlie McAvoy gets blatantly tripped. And there's no call. And it's like, what is happening? And then Sean Kuraly puts his hand on the puck, which is an automatic penalty off a face-off. And so now the Lightning end up with back-to-back 5-on-3s. Like they're already on a 5-on-3, and now Kuraly goes to the box. And the Lightning scored 2 goals 23 seconds apart. And that really was like the big turning point. Charlie McAvoy sarcastically after the game. He was asked like where did that game turn, and he goes when they had a 5-on-3 for like 8 minutes straight, which wasn't quite that long, but it did feel that way. But then you get to overtime. So I mentioned that the Bruins got called for 2 penalties in overtime. The first one is in the first minute of overtime. Lightning turned the puck over in the offensive zone. Murat Husnudinov and David Pastrnak take off 2-on-1 the other way. Husnudinov feeds it over to Pastrnak, and he scores. Celebration, Bruins win. Except, like, as the shot's going into the net, there's a whistle. And then you see the ref immediately waving it off. And it's like, I assumed, like, offsides. Like, must have been offsides. It was the only thing I could come up with, because I'm like, why else is that whistle blowing? Then I look back, and Jeremy Swayman's out past the blue line, skating to the Bruins bench. And it's like, wait, what the hell just happened? And the next thing you know, Pasternak's going to the box for a slash. And I'm like, I could not have been, I would have loved to have seen my face. I could not have possibly been more confused about what was happening. I'm like, did he like somehow like slash the defenseman as he was like trying to defend a 2-on-1? I'm like, what on earth did I just miss? And then like finally video surfaces that they're calling it at the other end of the ice before the Tampa turnover. And by the way, extremely soft call. Like did not affect the play at all. Possibly barely touched the guy. I think it was Kucherov, right? It was Kucherov making the pass.
Moser to Kucherov.
Okay, yeah. And so it's like, okay, so that you're calling that bad call, but the whistle didn't blow the whole time the Bruins were in possession. And so I think their reaction to that after, like Pasternak, who usually kind of bites his tongue talking about the refs, just straight up called it a joke. He said, I don't understand. I've never seen something like that. To me, it was a joke. I don't care if that's a bad answer, but that's how I feel. Morgan Geekie said that made us more mad than the calls. It said, just the fact that we carried it all the way down the ice and we scored without anyone blowing the whistle. So he, meaning the ref, obviously saw something that none of us did, but we might have been watching two ice sheets. Like it was just an unbelievably baffling, like inexcusable sequence on a night that I do think the refs were pretty bad all the way. Like there's other calls we could nitpick or miss calls too, but two just completely blown in huge spots with, like I said, the Bruins killing a 5-on-3 and they miss an obvious penalty committed by the Lightning. And then in overtime, like to make that call and to make it so late is just, it's just really, really poor.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like they just waited until they knew the puck was in. I don't know. It's weird. And do you think, Scott, that Swayman was trying to get off the ice because he thought the penalty was the other way around?
Yeah, that's 100% what he was doing because he sees the ref has his arm in the air. And Charlie McAvoy talked about this after. Charlie McAvoy's skating up the ice next to the ref, like behind the play. The ref has his arm in the air as the Bruins are on a 2-on-1. So, yeah, of course, Jeremy Swayman thinks, oh, it's a delayed call in Tampa.
Of course.
Let me get to the bench. So it's a 4-on-3.
That's the
and I'm like, what would have happened? Like, let's say the Bruins lost that puck and Tampa gets it. Like, what happens? Does Tampa just score an empty net goal to win it?
I guess theoretically, I don't know.
It's just insane.
It's all sorts of messed up. And yeah, that's why the main topic from this game, despite all of the other things that were, entertaining and made it a really good atmosphere and everything, it was just about the penalties. I mean, my dad called me immediately after the game, all pissed off. Like he's like, it was rigged. He believes that game was rigged. So I can see why people would think that too, because it was like they missed multiple penalties that McAvoy got, I think, high sticked at one point too, and there was a few that McAvoy was getting totally abused at different points, and there was no calls. So. Yeah, that was rough. That was rough to watch. And yeah, the Bruins did commit a lot of those penalties, so that's not good, right? Like that, they still need to work on that clearly. And the broadcast was very much harping on the fact that they're the most penalized team in the country, whatever. Or sorry, I always say in the country because I'm used to talking about college hockey, but I meant in the league. But yeah, it made it really frustrating. Should I go to my opening shift? We'll definitely get back to this.
Yeah, we'll circle back.
So I decided to make my opening shift about Matt Poitras. It could have went goalie fight, right? But I think there wasn't a whole lot to be said about that goalie fight. It didn't last very long. It wasn't a very good fight, but it was entertaining. And Swayman finally got his goalie fight, so good for him. He just needs the goalie goal. Check that off. He's been checking off the list slowly. But so Matt Poitras, in his second game this season with the Bruins, travels down to Florida. Wasn't expecting to be playing in this game because he had been with Providence this whole season. And I don't know if you guys saw that the Providence game, they were in Charlotte and there was no fans because of extreme weather in North Carolina, which just means like snow happened. But so
Yeah, they got hammered though. Like all the ice and freezing temperatures.
yeah, and they're not prepared for it down there. They don't have
No, it's like the whole state's like been without power for days.
yeah, they don't have the infrastructure to deal with snow there. Like they don't
Or
have
plows.
salt.
They probably don't have many plows
No, they
laying
don't have
around
plows.
either.
They don't have salt. They don't like have the ability to salt the roads. Really, I think they run out of it fairly quickly because they just don't expect it. The plan down there is always wait for it to melt. So if it's not melted, there's really that plan doesn't help you out any quicker. But anyway, he was supposed to be there. Instead, he gets to play in this awesome outdoor game. I don't know whose outfit he wore because I highly doubt he knew he needed to bring a Revolutionary War outfit down with him to Florida. I don't think he just had one laying around, but so he
That
must
was well done. That was well
yeah.
done, huh? That walk-in attire.
Yeah,
You did a good job with that.
good. Yeah, they were some of them were like very convincing that like I could have seen them in like some sort of show about the Civil War. I'm not the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, and I think Asamont looked like that's what he was supposed to be wearing. But anyway, so he gets to have this kind of unreal experience because Elias Lindholm and Pavel Zacha both missed the game, so he's in the lineup. And he had a really good game. He has one of the nicer goals. That might have been the nicest goal he scored in the NHL so far. Puts it up on the backhand, gets it top corner, opposite side, beating a really good goalie too, Vasilevskiy. So and it was kind of like a one-on-one situation, and he gets the puck off exactly perfectly. So he gets a goal in his second game with Boston, and he had some other scoring opportunities in that game too. So I just thought he was making the most of his opportunity, and he could have helped the Bruins win. It was looking like it at that time. But yeah, we'll get into after opening shifts. We can get into some thoughts on Poitras.
Yeah, big game for him. And I mentioned last episode there was maybe a bit of a buffer for him in his first game back, with that the bar would probably have to rise for him in the eyes of his coaches as the second game and the third game got underway, especially with the guys that were out. So now, Scott, your opening shift makes me feel like I know the answer to my opening shift for you. But from a neutral party that's not a fan or doesn't cover Tampa or Boston, although Tampa fans I'm sure will vote in favor, but just as a neutral spectator, I'm curious if last night's game was the best outdoor game the NHL has had. I mean, again, through the eyes of the Bruins side of things, obviously not so much to the point you guys are making, the calls that were made on the Bruins. It was more so some of the calls that weren't made in both directions and whatnot, that whatever. But I don't know, if I'm a fan of the Winnipeg Jets and I'm watching that game, I'm like, that's a pretty entertaining game. So I'm curious where you guys think that game may stack up all time in terms of NHL outdoor games. I have my answer for you all listening or watching. If you have your answers, leave them below. The Bruins have 6 to choose from, so maybe it won't even be the favorite for Bruins fans, and the result would make sense for me. But just curious, I mean, was that event a success, right? I mean, we say you're talking about, the officials this, the officials that. I mean, we're also going to talk about the Bruins blunders because there were some key moments in that game before the officiating really kind of had an impact, where I think Boston kind of lost focus a bit. So anyway, that's my opening shift. Where does that game rank in terms of outdoor games?
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive success for sure. Like it was a great game if you're a neutral observer. Obviously, yes, from the Boston perspective, it's very easy to get caught up in the officiating, but you're right. A neutral observer is going to be like, man, that was unbelievably entertaining to watch. And it was a great event, which is kind of just as important with these big outdoor games, is like they are events in addition to being, hockey games, which is why, like, right, it's like people are like, why do you need Tim McGraw performing during the first intermission? It's like, because it's an event, and like this is what you do when you have big marquee events, is you you dress it up and you add all the extra stuff. And I gotta say, like, it was cool being there. Like that was it was funny because like I was talking to people leading up to it, and people were like, it doesn't really feel like there's a lot of juice to this, or like it's not really getting a lot of attention. But it's like, well, it was down here, and it was with all the Boston fans going down. Like, I know my flight down was full of Bruins gear. Fans chanting like "Let's go Bruins!" like as they're boarding the plane.
And Jim McBride, I don't know if you were on the same flight as him, but he said
no, but I was talking to him about this. Yeah,
he
tweeted
said that the flight he was on, all the Bruins fans drank the entire flight out of beer before the end of the flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my hotel's full of Bruins fans, like walking, because I'm within walking distance of the stadium, and yeah, like the whole walk, it just tons of Bruins fans. And then I actually thought, like, just because of seeing all that, I thought it was gonna feel almost like a Bruins home game. And to the credit of Tampa fans, it did not. Like, there were definitely Bruins fans you could hear in attendance and see the yellow looking around. But that had to have been like 85 to 90% Lightning fans. Like, they showed out too. So
yeah,
it was great. It was, sellout crowd, 64,000. So and obviously they lucked out weather-wise, right? Like, all the concern leading up was, how does outdoor hockey in Florida happen? This isn't the Miami Winter Classic where you have a retractable roof you can put up if needed. Nope, this was, full blown outdoors in an open air football stadium, and they got clear, cold weather. It was 41 degrees at puck drop, and it got even colder as the game went on. Very, very little wind. Saturday was super windy down here. By Sunday night, very little wind, clear skies all day, like no rain. So they really lucked out. And Saturday at practice, the ice had gotten kind of mixed reviews for some players. That was the first time anyone had skated on it. Really, like, other than like a couple of the NHL rink guys, like just going out for a test spin. So they had 2 practices, and by the end of the Bruins, it was like pretty chopped up. But the players I talked to after the game said ice was good. Like, it was really good ice. So that just was not an issue.
Did anyone ask either of the goalies about? Obviously, it ends up being a pretty high scoring game, and some of that was because of power play. But it kind of seemed like to me there might have been an issue with the goalies being able to like see through, because they're not used to stadium lights like pointing down at them. I don't know if either of them commented on that. They seemed like maybe they were a little bit blinded, because if you looked at, there was one shot they showed, like the camera from inside the net, and like it's like facing upwards too, so you could see that the lights were kind of like right there, like right in their line of sight for where they would have to try to watch for the puck. So I wonder if that affect, because that's different for goalies, so it ends up being a real high scoring game. But yeah, Brian, to your question, like, I guess you had kind of a 2-part question. Was it a success? Yeah, I think it was a big success. I mean, it's got to be the first goalie fight in an outdoor game, right? So people will talk about it. It will be remembered. So if you're a Bruins fan, it'll be remembered for that and the penalties, but everyone else probably just remember the goalie fight, or maybe the weird outfits, because I feel like sometimes that that lingers on. I mean, I've got to, they're gonna keep a picture of Pastrnak and McAvoy and Minton framed somewhere wearing their.
How about John Cooper's outfit?
Oh my God, I want to forget about that. That was too much.
Well, what's weird is I was thinking, like, when you're losing 5-1, that's a really tough look. Yeah. So good for him that they came back, because you don't want to be sad walking off the ice wearing that.
Yeah, that's a tough look. He really did make a bold fashion statement. It was a choice, but so yes, it was successful as an event. And Scott, you were there. Was the concert part of it? Were people enjoying that? Because I remember the outdoor games I've been to, everyone kind of ignores concert and they're just like, hurry up, we're cold. Like,
no, there were a lot of people staying in their seats. That seemed to be a crowd that was into Tim McGraw. So
okay. That's good. I know
also a lot of the press box stay in their seats. Like I think that there were a lot of Tim McGraw fans in the press box.
Scott, I don't know if you heard because you were there, and I know I tweeted this out, but a Bruins Tampa game broke out during a Tim McGraw PK Subban podcast because they were probably talking for about, I don't know, 7 minutes during a period. Plays going on. They're talking about, their family. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, but hey.
Well, I think PK Subban did think that this entire production was about him, but he was certainly very involved. And also, Scott, during the second intermission where they were doing like the thing with charity, were people paying attention to that? Because I heard PK Subban just keep going like, right, Tampa Bay, and then just didn't hear anything back.
Yeah, no, people were into it a little. Like the second intermission, people definitely got up and left their seats and like, went to go get beer and food. But yeah, it was also weird because like he tried to force Tampa Bay like 8 times. And I was like, all right, bro, we get it. Like, you got a good pun. Tampa's won some championships in the last 5 years.
Yeah. So listen, I think that last night was definitely a success for the league in general. It was a really well done event, I think. I think both teams brought forth a great entertaining product. If you take away like the specific analysis of the game and whatnot from either side, just generally speaking, it was a very entertaining product, no doubt about it. My personal favorite outdoor game still remains the original Winter Classic in 2008, January of 2008. The novelty of it, combined with the snowstorm. I thought the uniforms were fantastic. Pittsburgh had the powder blues. Buffalo had Buffalo kind of wore at the time a retro look, but it's more or less what their away uniforms are now. And, Sidney Crosby on the marquee ends the game in Buffalo. Is it Ralph Wilson Stadium? I just thought that atmosphere was really, really cool and something that I don't think will ever be topped in terms of novelty. But in any event, as far as the game goes last night, yes, Bridget, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say that was the game that I remember watching that game, and I remember thinking to myself, I gotta go to one of these because I mean we were young then, right? We were in. How old were you, Brian? We were probably both in middle school, right?
I was a freshman in high school.
Okay, I think I was in 8th grade, and I just remember thinking to myself, I need to go to one of these. And I was obsessed with making sure that I got to go to one. And then I got tickets for the one at Gillette and regretted it. It was the worst fan experience I've ever had. It was freezing cold. Nobody around me knew anything about hockey. They tried to take my purse from me at the door. They said I couldn't bring it in because it wasn't clear. So I just stuffed it under my coat. It was just like a whole bad time. Like, I didn't even want to get up to go get a beer because I was so cold. Like, by the way, at this point in time, I was in college. But yeah, it was honestly like one of the worst. It was probably the worst hockey game I've ever been to. Marchand was suspended for it. Like,
Pasternak was hurt.
Yeah, it was just not good. So this game, would you say it's the Bruins' best outdoor game? I think that's easier to say. I know that my least favorite was the Gillette one.
Yeah, it might have been like the best pure game, but a big part of these outdoor games is the setting, and like Brian mentioned with the Buffalo one, like the special feel of it. So like the first Fenway one still feels special, even though that really wasn't a great game. Most of the game, honestly, there wasn't a lot happening most of that game.
They almost got shut out. Imagine getting shut out.
Right, but the Bruins do tie it late, and then obviously Sturm wins it in overtime. So like that one still feels really special. And then the Tahoe game, just because of the setting, like
that was insane.
Will almost certainly never be replicated because the NHL will never play a game with no fans, like for as long as they exist, unless the God forbid something happens that forces that again. But
well, that was also the most memorable thing about that was Pasternak hat trick and then the Barbie girl.
Yeah.
Everybody will remember it from that.
Yeah, and also wasn't that the game that Trent Frederick asked, like, is dirty water about Boston? Is that why they play it after our wins?
That's funny. Well,
yep.
The poor Charles taking catching strays.
Yeah. But so like those ones stand out just because of the environments and the settings of them. And then
the one that we went to at Fenway, the most recent one at Fenway, was a pretty decent game. And DeBrusque ended up like breaking his foot and still playing or whatever the hell happened with his foot. Like that was
and scoring 2 goals, including the winner.
Yeah. So I mean that was a fun one to be. I had the best time at that one. That one was great.
Yeah, and I would say for non-Bruins, like the one that stands out was Detroit-Toronto at the Big House in Michigan.
That was
like
a good one too.
That was a great setting. That was a good game too. So
similar to Buffalo, snow and a shootout and 2 really good uniforms and a great atmosphere. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so again, to jump back to this game, if you guys don't mind quickly, you guys kind of touched on the officiating and I'll let that speak for itself. You guys kind of hit the nail on the head there. It wasn't really the penalties that were called on Boston, because I really do think, the Pasternak one, I don't think that impeded Moser's pass and went exactly to Kucherov where he wanted to go and when he wanted the puck to get there. It was McAvoy's defense that made forced the pass behind Kucherov and he wasn't able to finish the play. And then, one other issue that I had on the Bruins was like not so much that Kastlick shouldn't have been called for a rough after Tampa's second goal. I just think that, okay, call him for the rough, but then you had like 3 or 4 Tampa guys, essentially going at him at the same time. Somebody's got to get a rough there too. So I didn't like that. But besides that, every other shorthanded opportunity for the Bruins was deserved. It was more so some of the calls, like the non-trip on McAvoy right before Corrali closes his hand on the puck. Again, penalty on Corrali, should have been a trip on Nick Paul. But before all that stuff, here's my issue with the Bruins in this game. Because I don't think any of the, subjective problems with the officiating happens if the Bruins keep their focus. I feel like ironically enough, it's almost like the worst thing in hindsight, the worst thing that could have happened to the Bruins was going up 5-1 with still half a game to go, because you kind of got the sense, and I think Jeremy Swayman throwing down with Vasilevskiy, I'm not, the moment I think it was worth the moment, don't get me wrong, but I felt like the Bruins, Tampa Bay was deflated. They had nothing, and they weren't generating much at 5-on-5. It was the power play that brought Tampa back in. So I felt like Tampa Bay was deflated. They were getting outworked by Boston, outskated by Boston. And if the Bruins just kind of kept things simple and kept the game, I guess, more or less boring, yeah, it may have gotten chippy towards the end, but I think you probably skated away with like a 6-2, 7-3 type of win. But instead, it kind of felt like the Bruins up 5-1 felt like, well, this game is about to be very boring for what the spectacle is, and let's put on a show here. And I felt like that Swayman fight, to me, it was well worth the moment, but if we're being honest, it was unnecessary, right? Like I felt like if the Bruins wanted to focus on keeping the game boring, I think you walk away with 2 points there. I think they kind of let the moment get to them, and they wanted to make the game a little bit more entertaining than it probably was at that point when it's 5-1 with still half a game to go. And I think it kind of snowballed from there.
My opinion on it, once again, is that I'm really glad they let it happen, unlike the other time he tried. But it does remind me of what Zadorov said after that game, which you could tell he was annoyed with. Why is the goal, like, this isn't the goalie's job, basically, because he had made a comment after that game that kind of stuck out. I think he said, was that what he was doing? Like, he wasn't, like, when he was asked, he was sticking up for his teammates, like, what was that what he was doing? And I think he saw that as a distraction and not what a goalie should do. And I wonder if he feels that this time. It was obvious they showed people they showed like Pasternak and Geeky like absolutely losing their mind, excited about it. But I don't think everyone felt that way. I think some people might have felt that it did distract.
Well, I don't feel that way at all. I had absolutely zero issue with this.
Neither do I, but
honestly, I would be disappointed in any of Swayman's teammates who did, because the big difference is, at that time, Swayman tried to spin it as like defending his teammates, which correct, like that's not really the goalie's job. In this case, he's defending himself, because the Lightning had jammed away at a couple plays after the whistle that like he was clearly bothered by that weren't called. And then on this one in particular, Hagel like straight up slashes him as Swayman has the puck covered. And it turns out they did call Hagel for that. But like Swayman doesn't know that in the moment. So Swayman has the puck under his glove. Hagel comes in, chops down. And Swayman like understandably just gets up and goes after Hagel. And is like, you know what? Like, screw this. I've had enough. Like, taking this into my own hands. And he jumps Hagel. McAvoy comes in, big scrum. And then Vasilevskiy is out at center ice. Like Vasilevskiy clearly wants it. I think Swayman looks up, sees him coming, and is like, yeah, let's go. So
do you think Swayman does that, Scott, if the score is 2-1 Boston at the time?
Yeah. Actually,
Swayman, I feel like he was just waiting for
I think when Tampa's like jamming at you after whistles and nothing's really being done about it, like, I have zero problem with deciding to kind of take things into your own hand and be like, that's enough.
So you think that, so basically this was also a result of the officiating in a way?
Yeah. So it's a little tougher because like, I don't know if any of that jamming was like so egregious that it needed to be called, but I think there was like a clear effort by Tampa to like, we're gonna toe the line here and kind of see what we can get away with.
Turns out they could get away with anything.
Well, because they're down 5-1, and they know that,
right?
And that's kind of my point. The Bruins kind of allowed that to get to them. You know, like I guess. Listen, I'm not here saying I love the goalie fight. As I said about 10 minutes ago, I think the moment was worth it. I'm just trying to ask the question: in a world where that goalie fight doesn't happen and the game doesn't go off the rails, I think we're talking about a Bruins win. And that's the only point I'm trying to make here. I think it all kind of snowballed because I think they kind of lost their focus a little bit. I think their focus kind of shifted from let's just keep playing our game. I'm not saying that they were consciously saying let's play like assholes here. Let's go away from our game plan. I just think they lost their focus a little bit. And I just think that things snowball. And, next thing you know, Swayman, puck goes over the glass and, whatever it is. And then the 5-on-3 mount and then once the game was 5-3, 5-4, you kind of had a feeling it was going to be a 5-5 game at some point. Mm-hmm. And then in the third period, I just thought Boston played on their heels for a lot of it. And, the Kucherov goal is a, fair game, 5-on-5 goal. So I think the moment was worth it. It was fun to watch. But if I'm trying to pinpoint why did the Bruins not close out a 5-1 win, but don't mention the refs, it's losing their focus in the middle of the game up 5-1. I think that's where it starts.
Yeah, but to me, I just don't think the Swayman fight is the example of that. Like I think it's the penalties. It. It's that they had already cut it to 5-2, and then Kassel takes a penalty after. So Swayman didn't put them any further shorthanded until a few minutes later when he bats a puck over the glass, which, by the way, I just don't think that should be a penalty. Like, I know it is by definition, but the goalie's just trying to bat away a rebound. To me, that I don't think that should be a penalty. But whatever, different discussion. But then it's the penalties that come after that where they really lose it, and so Swayman gets that delay of game penalty. 13 seconds into the kill, Tannen Jeannot grabs a guy right off a face-off and takes a holding penalty. That's just a bad play. You're not going to get away with that. So why are you doing it? And then there's the Corrali closing his hand on the puck, which again is just an automatic call. Sean Corrali's been around long enough. He knows you can't do that. So I think at that point, that's when it really gets away and the door is wide open for Tampa. So, I get that like the Swayman fight happens during that entire sequence as it goes from a 5-1 to, eventually a 5-4 game by the end of the period. But it didn't feel to me like that was a losing control moment. It was all the other penalties.
Yeah, I'm not. I really don't want to come across like I'm not blaming Swayman solely, and I'm not blaming that specific moment. I just think it's kind of like a book cover because it was such a signature moment for what was an unraveling. I think if you have a 5-1 lead, I think 10 out of 10 times that should be a win. And
Well, the
so,
Bruins had
like,
never lost a game they had led by 4. So
and yeah, and I don't think the Bruins have lost a game up to it all this season. So, I look at that second period and I can't help but think if they just kept their focus a little bit more, I just think you win that game. I think you win that game going away. But, obviously they allowed the moment. I'm not saying Swayman shouldn't have been pissed at Hagel. I'm just saying if we're being honest here, the game got away from the Bruins in that second period, and it starts with some of the tomfoolery going around. That's all.
Tomfoolery. I did not think we were getting that on today's.
I've been trying to get that in since episode 200, I think.
Tomfoolery.
What a word. Oh, it's a hell of a word. It really is.
It's very old-fashioned, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But yeah, and I did want to go through some like little individual things too. Like Alex Steves scores again. It had been a long time. Like he had been in a slump. He scores his 9th goal of the season. That was the first goal the Bruins scored. Then Geekie has 2. Arvidsson has a power play goal, and Poitras, which I had already mentioned, Poitras scores. He made it 4-1. So there was in that stretch a lot of things that you do like about what you see from the Bruins. And yeah, especially like Geekie had been on a little bit of a slow streak too, and now the last several games he's been back to scoring at the pace he was to start the season. So yeah, I mean there were those positives in that stretch of the Bruins scoring 5 in a row.
Yeah, and I mean it's guys stepping up, right? Like that's one, and Sturm said this after the game, like that's one positive is the guys that you needed to step up with Elias Lindholm and Pavel Zacha out did, like Husnudinov goes back between Pasternak and Geekie, and I thought played pretty well. We know Minton's been on a good streak, even though, this was probably a little quieter of a game, but Poitras has a really good game playing between Jeannot and Kastelik. Steve's first goal since December 23rd. Like he needed that bad. Great play by Mikey Eyssimont to set it up. That was Eysimont's first point since December 16th. So, that's 2 guys who both have been healthy scratches at times in recent weeks that probably desperately needed something to cling to. And at the moment are, have to play because the Bruins only have 12 forwards on this trip. So, yeah, I thought that was big for them. I will say on Poitras, this was a really good game for him overall. He did have one really bad shift in the third period that I did not like. And like I don't have to go in too hard, but like he committed a turnover in the D zone, and then he lost his guy in coverage for a grade A scoring chance that Swayman bailed him out on. But that was like 2 back-to-back mistakes in a game that at the time was still 5-4. But otherwise, yeah, he was definitely making things happen offensively. And I really liked the comment, him with Jeannot and Kastelik. It's like that really benefited Minton for a stretch earlier this season. And you can see Sturm thinking like, hey, let me try it with Poitras too. And for one game so far, like it worked. That line was pretty relentless in the offensive zone and keeping plays alive. And Poitras was right there. Like it wasn't just, these 2 heavyweights will do the heavy lifting and I'll just, I can just float around. No, like he was right in there, second, third efforts, forcing turnovers, keeping pucks alive. Like So yeah, those are the kind of things like he has to do if he's gonna stay up.
Yeah, and I feel like he's it's such a weird situation too because he gets the call up because of the 2 injuries, and obviously as soon as those guys come back, he probably doesn't really have a spot again. But it's also right before the Olympic break, so like theoretically those guys should, based on what information we've gotten, like they should be back by the end of that. Even if they don't play in the Olympics, because both of those guys are supposed to play in the Olympics. That would be a real bummer for them, obviously. But either way, I feel like he did have a good game in the outdoor game, and he could even have an even better game against Florida. But I don't know how much of a difference it makes for him and to stick on the team after the Olympic break, because theoretically the timelines for those injuries are, they should be healthy. And then is there still a spot for him? I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, I certainly liked his finish on his goal the other night against Tampa Bay. I thought he had some jump in his game outside of that. Scott, I'm kind of blanking on the shift you're talking about, but I believe you wholeheartedly. I would probably say the same thing if I could think of it right now. I want to read you guys something. In last episode, I believe it was last episode, I mentioned to you guys, or I asked the question, because people were asking me as well, was calling up Poitras in part showcasing him. And Scott, your answer, just to remind people, was like, no, it's simply put, they needed a body and at center, and Poitras playing well. Don't overthink it. Okay. And there's all sorts of opinions from people, and that's great. So I want to read something from a quote that Elliot Friedman said recently, and I don't know what. Okay, it was on. Is it Fan Hockey or FAN Hockey? I'm not really sure if they pronounce it as a word or as an acronym, but in any event, he says, "I've wondered about Matthew Poitras. You can tell that both sides aren't 100% happy with each other here. I think the Bruins have expected more. I think Poitras would expect more." I don't really have much other context besides that one quote that I saw out there online. I'm not surprised to see those quotes. I mean, I think Poitras is obviously a competitor and he wants to be playing at the highest level. And I think if you're the team, they haven't seen apparently what they need to see out of him. So I guess I'll circle this back to that question about showcasing. And does that and listen, Elliot Friedman he's not all knowing. Okay. He's only an insider, but he's a plugged in insider. Does that quote from him change your answer, Scott, or does it just tell you the Bruins are willing to listen to him if somebody called, but that's separate from the reason that they called him up?
Yeah, it's that, like, by virtue of him playing NHL games, there's a showcase element to it, right? Like, other teams are watching. His name has already popped up in trade rumors. Everyone saw that he changed agents. Like, that usually kind of gets the antennas up. So yeah, like, absolutely, there's teams checking him out and that are interested in how he plays here. I just don't think that's why they called him up. Like, I still believe they called him up because they needed a center and they thought he was the best option. So, and I said this before too. Like, Poitras was going to play NHL games at some point this year. I don't think their plan was ever to keep him in the AHL the entire season. They just hadn't really. Well, so because I've seen pushback on this too. People say, like, well, there have been other opportunities to call him up, and it's like, not real. I mean, if you want to say, like, the one game that Georgi Merkulov got to play, could that have been Poitras? But remember, they played Merkulov on the wing, so that wouldn't have even been at his natural position. That was only one game anyways, right? Like, then he was right back down. So,
well, it's probably the games that Elias Lindholm missed earlier this year and Middlestad combined.
Right, but I mean, they put Husnudinov at center and he played well. So, I think it's every situation is different. It's not as simple as, like, well, he didn't get the call earlier this season, so if they're calling him up now, it has to be because they're showcasing him for a trade. It's like, no, things change. Like, Poitra's been playing better in Providence recently. Like, that's a huge difference. Early in the season, he wasn't playing well. He was struggling. So, that probably didn't line up where it's like, again, there is an element of like, you have to force your call-ups. They don't generally, except for maybe late in the season in like true garbage time if you're out of it, they don't just call guys up just for the heck of it, just because it's like, yeah, you know what, he's played 40 games in Providence, we'll give him a shot. It's like, well, I don't know, did he earn a shot? Had he forced anyone's hand? Like, not really. So, and I don't even know that he had necessarily forced their hand this time around, but there were enough injuries at the right position that he got a shot. And to his credit, especially this game, has taken advantage so far.
I think it's obvious that he's not like, I mean, we talked about like for his development, right? He's still young. What is he's 22 now, right? Or he's 21, got to turn 22 in like a month. And he looks like he's NHL ready, like he can handle the NHL. Is there further development that can happen in Providence? Like, I remember Don Sweeney saying like there's room for him to grow there first, and then it's part of the development process for people. That's where pretty much all of the Bruins' best players had to do a stint down there before they ended up becoming stars in Boston. So it doesn't mean that they've given up on him, the fact that he's been there to start the season. However, and I don't know if this was in the context, Brian, of what Friedman was talking about, but you look behind Poitras at Higgins and Letourneau. And especially it's been a topic of conversation people have come up to me and wanted to talk about this week, because Higgins and Letourneau are on an absolute tear. like they're having a good season, both of them.
Bridget, can I read something to support that real quick?
Yeah.
Letourneau right now, he's on pace for, let's see, 37 points in 34 games pre-playoffs, and Higgins is on pace for 38 points in 32 games pre-playoffs.
Yeah, they both scored in the game against BU. Sorry, Scott. So
I didn't get to watch it, so it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. Okay. Well, they both scored in the second period. I ended up interviewing Higgins in that intermission, which he was not happy because he got
hell of a new pro pick, by the way. Hell of a new pro pick you got there.
Yeah, I know. It was a good one. I found this girl. She was a photographer. She was in like the little camera well, and I was like, "Can you take a picture of me real quick?" So I enlisted some help for that. But yeah, he got off the edge.
That was the Bridget, I almost commented on this on social media, but I was like, oh, that's like the first picture that makes James Higgins look tall.
Yeah, because look just put Bridget for scale, and I was in heels, but he was also in skates, so that's essentially like them wearing heels. But yeah, like his goal was set up by Letourneau, and then Letourneau scored after that, and all of the Bruins, well, not all of the Bruins prospects, 3 of the Bruins prospects, Gasso had a goal and an assist, Letourneau goal and an assist, Higgins goal and an assist, and that's just been how they've been playing. And it's the Dean Pot starts today, by the way. Oh, yeah. So, but to relate this back to Poitras, I'm trying to think of what the down the middle looks like for the Bruins in the future. And maybe Higgins isn't a full-time center. Like, even at BC this season, that's not what he's been. So, maybe the answer is that Higgins is playing on the wing, and, but like the depth chart down the middle for the future, it's kind of clogged. Like, where does Poitras fit in that? And maybe that's part of the frustration, is looking behind you and knowing these guys aren't here yet. And maybe Letourneau takes all 4 years in college. But I don't think Higgins is. I think Higgins is probably trying to join the team after this semester, whenever his season ends with Boston College. So it's coming quickly. And that means like that means something for Poitras.
I mean, I guess my thought on this is like, why would you worry about that? You can't worry about that. Like you gotta just deal with what's in front of you now. And like,
Well, yeah, I'm not saying he is worrying about it, but
like
I'm saying
if Matt Poitras is good enough to win an NHL job and stick and contribute to winning hockey for the Boston Bruins, he will have a job. Like he will. That's how this works. You know, I just think like sometimes we get bogged down in the like, well, what if everything goes perfectly right and all these guys, you know, end up like hitting their ceilings? And it's like too much can happen between now and then. Like I know it feels like that's right around the corner, but I just think like Poitras has the opportunity now to try to establish himself as an NHLer.
yeah.
He took a step back in Providence this year. Like that happened. And I know like, all right, if you want to say, well, he actually did some good things away from the puck. It's like he had what 40 points in 43 games or something in Providence last year. And his production was way under that this year. Like that didn't happen because James Higgins and Dean Letourneau are behind him, right? Like that happened because Matt Poitras didn't take the step forward that he needed to take this season. And maybe he's finally getting there now. Like maybe he has a great stretch run, whether it's in Boston or Providence or some mix of both. But I don't know. I just feel like if you're good enough to win a job, you get a job. Not always, right? Every now and then there are cases of guys who don't get a chance one place and stick somewhere else or get more opportunity. Yeah. And like the Bruins have been on both ends of that, right? Like they've found guys who have been better here than that they're being underutilized elsewhere. And they've lost guys who they didn't really use here and have had success elsewhere. Brandon Bussey, right? Like, and that happens with every team has those stories both ways. You know, the diamond in the rough that you found and the one you let get away. But I just like I think Matt Poitras' future in Boston. I think he has had a lot of say in that, and still does. Like he still has the opportunity to win a permanent job here. But I would just say like I don't think he's done enough this season to do that. And you know, that's like you can point fingers elsewhere, but like ultimately he needed to be better right from the get-go this year.
Yeah, and one of the questions that we had in our mailbag, I'm gonna just open it. We answered part of it about like the goal and him playing, you know, our assessment of his play in the game. But part of the question has to do with the coach, right? Like the fit with coaches. So Liz, one of her questions was, she said, very impressed with Poch's play over the past 2 games. I really like the way Sturm has handled him and built his confidence. He said Poitras was brought up because he trusts him, and Sturm showed that tonight by putting him back on the ice with 30 seconds left in a tie game. Monty would never have done that. I don't think this was a showcase for him because the Bees needed a center due to all the injuries, but no doubt it increased his trade value, which Sweeney will be happy with. Thoughts on Poitras in the game and the goal. So the part that I want to add to this is just because we've touched on some of it is like the Sturm aspect, the coach, like the coaching fit, like the systems fit for him with Sturm.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for me, it's less the coach, it's more the competition that's in front of him. Like I feel like Matt Poitras is not a winger. Could he at some point convert to wing at the NHL level and be a good winger? Sure, I'm not going to say he can't, but he's a natural centerman. And right now, you have Elias Lindholm on a long-term deal. You have Pavel Zacha signed through next year, and I think they'll extend him. And you have Fraser Minton, who, oh, by the way, is probably 5th right now in Calder voting if it were to be conducted right now.
Oh, yeah. We didn't even mention he was rookie of the month of January.
Right. So, like, so if you're Matt Poitras, okay, you're not really a winger. And who are you surpassing? Elias Lindholm, Pavel Zacha, Fraser Minton right now? So I notice I haven't mentioned James Higgins yet, right? Like, this is why he's been in Providence all year, because he isn't good enough to play over those guys right now. And then you have other players like a Murat Husnudinov who can play center that they have at the wing, that in a pinch they'll put him to center. So I just feel like,
and Middlestat.
yeah, Middlestat too, right? And it's like, so I don't think Poitra's a winger, so he has to be a center in Boston, and he's not going to be a fourth line center, so he's going to be a top 3 center. So who is he surpassing right now? And right now, Lindholm's under contract. Zacha, he's not better than, and he's not better than Minton. So where's the fit? So when you bring up coaching, I don't know how much of it has to do with coaching at this point, because there's better players in front of him. If there was no Fraser Minton right now, then I think Matt Poitras would have had an inside track at training camp. But Minton beat him out, and like I said, he's in the Calder conversation right now, and there's still, nearly 26 games to go. If other Calder finalists fall off a bit and Minton continues to rise, then he could be a potential top 3 finalist. Now, right now, I think it's between Schaefer, Demidov, and Seneke. But like, my point is, it's the biggest issue for Matt Poitras right now is fit. It's the numbers game. And to your point earlier, Bridget, I don't think Poitras is worried about Higgins or Letourneau, but I think we'd all be naive here to say that players don't think about the numbers game around them. It's part of analyzing they do it. But for me, it's less about Higgins and Letourneau. It's more about the guys in the current roster that are under contract that are better than him. And if Poitras was a guy that could convert to wing, like a Husnudinov or a Middlestad, then okay, maybe he's like the replacement for Victor Arvidsson next. But right now, it seems like Poitras's game just doesn't really fit well at the wing at this point. So I'm not saying he can't be a winger, but I guess what I am saying is, if he wants to be in Boston long term, I think he kind of has to be a winger, because I don't think he's going to be ahead of the other guys. Lindholm's under term. Zacha's, I think, going to be extended. Minton isn't going anywhere. So you tell me where he's fitting if it's not at the wing.
Yeah, that's all fair. And it does, that is why them trading him is a possibility, because
Right.
if you're, if you're the Bruins and you look at it and you're like, do we see Matt Poitras as part of our long-term future? Again, I think that should still be on the table as a possibility, but maybe they're looking at it as we do have Elias Lindholm under contract. We know Fraser Minton's one of our middle 6 centers for the long-term future. We want to re-sign Pavel Zacha, right? Maybe you're thinking that's in your plans. And Marco Summers made it clear he likes Zacha more as a center than a wing. And then Higgins and Letourneau coming. If Don Sweeney and his staff look at that and say, yeah, you know what, we don't really see Matt Poitras as part of our long-term plans, well, then you might as well trade him now while he still has value and has probably increased that value with his play these last couple of games. So, it's if they trade Poitras, it's not going to. What I will say is, it's not. I don't view that as them giving up on him necessarily. I view it as a strategic gamble that they're going to have other options, and Poitras is going to be a valuable piece in a trade that gets them something else that they want, whether that's, a scoring wing, a right shot defenseman, right? There are other spots on the roster where they are not as deep as they suddenly are at center.
Yeah, I think a trade package, and I'm just speculating here, I'm spitballing, but a trade package starting with Matt Poitras and, let's just say for argument's sake, a 2027 first round pick, right? I think those 2 items can get you maybe you got to add one other thing depending on who you're getting back and how old they are, what their contract is their retention, all that stuff, right? But those are Matt Poitras and a first round pick, hypothetically. I think that's a hell of a starting point for a real solid return back. And it just, again, it comes down to the numbers game. It's Fraser Minton's the same age as Matt Poitras. So you're not losing out on youth at center for the future. again, if there are Bruins fans out there right now that are probably hearing this and saying, I don't want Elias Lindholm under contract, and I understand why you may feel that way. I guess what I'm saying is, but he is, right? So like that's the reality. He is. He's got a full no movies under contract. So I don't know. If Matt Poitras was somebody that we were talking about, oh, he can go to wing, no problem, then it's a different story. But
then he's
we haven't
called up.
seen that.
He's probably called up instead of Steve's earlier this season.
Sure. Yeah. Or like I said, maybe he's a candidate to replace Victor Arvidsson next year at the wing, right? But it's like what we've seen so far of Matt Poitras has not been someone who looks like they're going to excel at the wing at the NHL level. He's more of a, he needs to play up the middle for his game to thrive, and I don't know. There's just not a fit right now. There's just not a fit.
What's going on with Lysell?
Well, there is, but not when the guys come back to the lineup, because right now he's in the lineup for a reason.
Is Lysell hurt? I mean, we haven't not really talked about him, and normally it's like, oh, is it time to bring him up? That hasn't really come up at all this season.
He's produced. I don't know if he's been hurt recently, but I do think he's producing nearly a point per game clip last I saw. But it's been probably a few weeks.
Georgi Merkulov just got he broke the points record for the Providence Bruins, which is such a weird thing to do.
Lysell's playing, by the way. He's not hurt.
Okay, I just feel like we haven't heard much about him from.
Do AHL teams raise banners? Do AHL teams have
they do if they win the Calder Cup?
Well, I guess I meant like a player banner,
like a Chara
number.
Yeah.
I mean, because there are. I have to imagine that over the years that there have been career AHL journeymen that stuck with one team, and maybe it was in some random town in I don't know, Birmingham, Alabama, let's say, which I think has had a team at some point. I don't know, could someone's number get raised in that community? I don't know.
Quick Google search. So the Providence Bruins have only retired one number, and I would say it's a fitting one. It was Colby Cave.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
His number 25.
Definitely a unique situation there.
But
yeah.
I don't know how you feel if you're Georgi Merkulov. You're like, I've got the most points in the Providence Bruins history, yet I'm still here. It's because I've been he's been very good at that level, but really hasn't had too much of an opportunity at the NHL level. And I don't think any of us would disagree that when he has gotten called up, he hasn't done enough to stay for the most part. So
right.
It's not like he's being completely snubbed. There's times where it's okay, he gets rewarded for good playing well in Providence, and then just doesn't really translate. So yeah. That's just our little Providence check-in that I didn't realize we were going to be doing.
I will say, the one thing that I like about Poitras getting these games, regardless of where it goes after this, but I do like when you have these pockets where you kind of need someone for a few games of giving, if there's an AHL guy deserving of a look, giving it to him instead of just, we'll go with our 12 guys who are still on the roster. Because I do think there's real developmental benefit to calling these guys up, giving them a few games, getting them, with Marco Sturm, who you hope is going to be a coach here long-term, and then sending them back, when you send them back down, they have notes of okay, here's what we liked. Here's what we want you to work on. All that, that stuff I think is really valuable instead of just because you can try to give them notes throughout, all right, playing 4 straight months in Providence. But I think if you can get them time in Boston, even if it is just a few games, it energizes them. And 2, it kind of makes whatever the message is, it makes it sink in more because it's okay, now you're actually up there, you saw it, Marco Sturm saw it. He talked to you, and like now that's different than being down Providence, and it's always just Ryan Mougenel giving you the same message over and over.
Yeah, no, I agree, Scott. I agree. So, and listen, I don't think they're actively trying to just get rid of Poitras to get rid of him. I think it's gonna have to make sense, right? If someone calls and there's something worth doing, then they will. But there are benefits to Poitras being obviously in the organization, even if he's not a full-time Bruin right now. So guys, I do want to talk quickly about the game that's coming up here because it's a big one. Now, Florida continues to kind of struggle a little bit. You know, right now there's three teams ahead of them for a playoff spot. The second you have the Sabres in wild card 2. Boston, by the way, they're wild card 1 right now, 68 points. On points percentage, they are wild card 2. But you got Columbus, the first team outside the playoff picture, then Washington and Florida. So Boston's got 68 points in 56 games, and the Panthers have 59 points in 54 games. So a couple games in hand for the Panthers, but they're 9 points back of Boston. Opportunity for the Bruins here to do what they did to the Flyers last week, which is step on the throat of a snake of a team that's behind you, chasing you. And if you can get 2 points in regulation, well, now you're 11 up on Florida heading into the Olympic break. If Florida gets 2 points on you in regulation, well, now you're 7 points up on Florida, and they get 2 games in hand. So say they win those games, right? Now they're 3 points behind you. So take care of business here, right? Like, take care of business if you can here.
I think this is such an important game, like hugely important to me. And you guys might disagree. Maybe it's crazy to say, but I think that if they beat Florida in this game, I think that they guarantee themselves a playoff spot. Like, I just feel like this game is that important because Florida is the team that you have to worry about. I think of those 3 teams you listed just outside the playoffs. Just based on history. And, that's been the team that has done it and to the Bruins, the last several seasons. So I think if you beat Florida, you now, create a little bit of separation between you and those other teams, Columbus and Washington, because you're 7 points ahead of them right now. Maybe, if you get the right swing there, you could be 9 points ahead of those teams. And then you're would it be 11 points ahead of Florida?
Yep.
Too much math.
Don't let me do math. Listen,
if the Bruins win,
to the numbers. But anyway, I think that's how important this game is. That I think they make the playoffs if they win this game, and
wow,
I think it's big enough where they're at the point right now where they've created a gap, but this just feels like it puts them over the top to me. And I know we still have a lot of season left when the teams come back from the Olympic break, but that's how big I think this game could be for them.
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers are they're in real trouble, right? 3 straight losses. Utah, St. Louis, Winnipeg, not exactly a gauntlet of a schedule recently. They're under 500 since December 30th, 7-8-1, and still just banged up, right? Obviously Barkov's not back yet, but Seth Jones is out. Marchand and Anton Lundell both missed their game on Saturday, so we'll see if they get back this week. But yeah, you just keep all season long. I think everyone's been waiting for okay, when is Florida going to turn it on and go on their run? You figure, okay, Matthew Tkachuk coming back is a good time for it. Instead, they've just continued to struggle. So, yeah, absolutely, a chance to bury them, and it feels. Yeah, you're right, Bridget. It feels huge, right? Because it's you can help do that, or you can be the team that kind of opens the door for them to get a tiny bit of momentum to latch onto going into the break. I think Florida plays Tampa right after too. Yeah. So Wednesday night is actually not their last game. They also play Tampa Thursday night, and Buffalo tonight, which I actually thought about going, but I think I'm going to skip it. But I'll be over there in time. So maybe I'll find a bar to watch that at. But yeah, huge week for the Panthers. Buffalo, Boston, Tampa.
You're gonna have to expect Florida's best. They are gonna get up for that game like no other because it's the Bruins, because they need to, because their season is, on the line with each passing game. And when Florida decides that they want to play and they want to agitate, they do it. And so I think of this game right now, and immediately I just think of how the Bruins' lack of discipline throughout this season has cost them at times. Look no further than yesterday, right? I think that their discipline is going to be tested early and often in that Panthers game. I think you're going to see AJ Greer, old friend AJ Greer. I think you're going to see him crashing the crease and giving little love taps to people, and Evan Rodriguez is going to get under people's skins, and they're gonna do their thing, like Matthew Tkachuk. Is Tkachuk, Bennett, and Marchand all in the lineup right now? I think they are.
Except this past game, Marchand missed Saturday's game.
Okay. So the point being, they're gonna get in your face. Everybody knows that the Bruins can't resist a good minor penalty. So there's gonna be probably temptation for a letdown after what was a spectacle of a game against the Lightning. Hopefully the Bruins are pretty motivated to right those wrongs instead of feeling bad for themselves. So again, like, this is not going to be an easy game for the Bruins, but you want to go out guns blazing here heading into the Olympic break. You want to leave it all out there because then you get nearly a month off for the majority of the lineup, obviously. So it's going to be a challenge, right? Make this trip worth it. At least they got the 1 point against Tampa, but get 3 out of 4 against Tampa and Florida. Okay, you're doing pretty good on a 2-game road trip. So Bean Pot, Bridget, good reminder on that. Bean Pot tonight. So Dean Pot. Mm-hmm. What are the matchups again?
First game is the Harvard game, right? Let me just double check here. I should probably know this off the top
It's
of my
not
head.
BC, right? They have a chance to meet in the finals.
No, exactly. It's not. So they're the later game. And the Harvard game is the first game. So yeah, it'll be fun.
It's Harvard BC, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, and BU Northeastern. Sorry, I should have said that. But yeah, so that's a good chance for BU to try to get right. They've had some struggles recently. They just lost to BC. So yeah, that's an important one for them on Monday. And then their schedule is not easy the rest of the way either. So yeah, for BU, it's important. For Bruins fans, there's quite a few Bruins prospects that will be playing in the Bean Pot. As we've mentioned, Hagens, Letourneau, there's a bunch of guys on BC that we've talked about, but I don't think Jelvik's going to be back, though. He's missed most of the season. Gasso's back. He's scored it, or he's had a point in every game since he's come back, which I think is like 6 or 7 games since he's been back. But and then BU has Jonathan Morello, who's been good. And then Harvard has, is it Langenbrunner?
Yeah.
I don't think, does Northeastern have anyone? I don't think so. But anyway, yeah, I don't think anybody's favored in this. Like, I think maybe BC's slight advantage, but none of the teams, normally the teams are like BC and BU will both be like 1 and 2 or like, 2 and 3 in the country. And right now, that's just not the case. That none of them are top 10 teams right now. So it's, I don't know, it might be wide open. It could easily be a BC BU final, which I think would make for a pretty good atmosphere. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to be heading out there as soon as we finish this, and then I eat lunch, and then I'm going to go. So
I would expect you'll get an especially great Northeastern crowd. You always do for the Bean Pot anyways, but also like for a lot of those students, this is their only chance to really cheer the team on in the second half. Because the next 5 years, every other game is on the road.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to be, and they're such a good like group of fans too. So it does stink they don't have a home rink for a while.
So they're called the Doghouse, right? What's Scott? What's BU's fan section called?
The dog pound.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
don't get them confused.
No, I can't. And what about BC? Was it the Nest? Eagles Nest? What is it? BC? No?
Yes, yeah. Scott's like, I don't know and I don't care.
Yeah, I don't give a flying fuck. All right. Programming note, by the way, I think, and we decided on this recording this week is going to be Monday episode, Thursday episode.
Yeah, we'll do Thursday after the Panthers game, final game before break. And then, so obviously next week, we'll still talk whatever's going on Bruins, if anything pops up, and obviously we'll talk Olympics, but we're going to do a mailbag at some point. We've tried to work in some questions here and there, including on this episode, but we will do a big mailbag sometime next week. So, email us skatepod@wei.com, tweet at the skatepod, comment on YouTube. You know the spiel by now.
Yeah, and by the way, if people are interested in the women's Olympic hockey, it starts Thursday morning. Like the first game I think is at 6:10. The US women play Czech Republic or Czechia at like 10:30ish. So in the morning. So you can watch some hockey before the Bruins game too on Thursday. Or no, Bruins are Wednesday, right? Yeah. Before our podcast, there will be hockey. They're starting before opening ceremony, so I figured I would mention that just so that people aren't blindsided by the fact that there's hockey in the morning.
I'm going to post this clip at some point on social, probably closer to the day, but Charlie McAvoy and Jeremy Swayman are walking in the opening ceremony because the Bruins wrap up on Wednesday, not Thursday. They're among, a group of NHLers who can get over there in time for it. I don't know about other Bruins players for other countries, but I do know that McAvoy and Swayman will both be in the opening ceremony for the U.S.
That'd be cool for them. Very cool for them. But speaking of Swayman and Team USA, their teammate Jake Gensel for the Olympics. What an unbelievable shot that was in the shootout, huh? That was. If you're gonna lose in a shootout, that's the type of shot you lose on. That was perfection. So hopefully he can do that for Team USA in Milan. They're gonna need it because they left one of their what would have been their 3-on-3 overtime and shootout specialist and Cole Caulfield left him at home. So is that the format in the Olympics? 3-on-3 overtime?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well, so I think in group games, I think it just goes straight to a shootout. But I think knockout games, you get 3-on-3 first, and then the shootout.
All right. Anything else from you two?
Nope. All good. I got to go get my rental car and make the lovely drive across flat, barren Alligator Alley today.
All right, so have fun with that. The rest of you all stay warm. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you on Thursday. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.